Hi everyone. My name is Dilbo of the Dilbo Gaming Channel, Debo for short. I recently just got my PC set up running here and got a pretty crappy camera and microphone, so I'm working on that. I'm sorry, but I started streaming on the weekends of Marathon. I put in about 100 hours, 118 hours of Marathon since it released, and I know that the player counts is an issue that's always talked about. I have been enjoying the game immensely. I have almost hit level 30 on a few of the factions. My one sec gen is only level 11, and everybody else is almost 20. So um, I've had some fairly successful runs. I've done a vault in cryo. So I just basically had wanted to talk about some of the ideas that I had about the game and how it could be better, preferably starting in season two, and some changes that could happen that would make it a little easier for the um, casuals, as you will, or just people with limited time or people that are interested but find the game too unapproachable, which is fair. I played the Server Slam. I didn't really love it. I liked it enough to play the game, and then I just fell in love with it. Prior to this, I had put over 100 hours in Arc Raiders, which I never thought Marathon would even come close to dethroning that game for me, but I haven't opened Arc Raiders since this game released. With that being said, I think there's a couple things that Bungie could do to make the game, a couple things that Bungie can do that would make the game a little more approachable, a little easier, raise the power floor a little better, as well as hopefully keep retention up while also not using that many resources on their end to do it. So the first thing is regarding factions. Um, as far as faction goes, like I said, I have about 120 hours in, or I'm approaching that very quickly, and I haven't hit 30 on any of them yet. I have no intention of stopping playing or anything like that, so I will hit them at some point. But it's kind of crazy to me that it's been 120 hours and I maybe 70% done if you do math. I don't know how the VIP ranks work because I haven't gotten there yet, so that's a whole other thing. But with that being said, like in Arc Raiders, I think around 60 to 80 hours, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly. But I had already maxed out all the workbenches and Scrappy, and I was able to just kind of do what I wanted. Um, so I think for the factions, I think what should happen is basically all the rep you earn from doing activities within a match, such as opening a health cabinet for New Cal, a bioprinter for Sekaguchi, uh, weapons locker for Traxxas, etc. All of those should give about twice the amount of experience that they currently do. One of the pain points that I've seen online is that, not only are you getting killed constantly, or at least, maybe lower skilled or casual players getting killed constantly and losing their loadouts, but on top of that, they are barely making progress, like, unless you are able to complete some contracts, which I'll get to, but like you can go around a map for 20 minutes opening everything you can, and then you just get ratted or something, bullshit kind of happens, or you just get outplayed, and then that whole time is gone, and then you see, like, at the end, Sayak increased by 20, New Cal by maybe 30, Mida by 15. Sekaguchi wasn't even touched, you know what I mean? And that really kind of makes it feel that much worse. So I think by doubling the experience within the match of the things that you do for those specific factions would help. Also, for standard contracts, I think they should award anywhere between maybe 25 to 30%, all the way up to 75, maybe even 100% more experience based on how difficult the contract is. For example, I did one that was for Mida that was break 5 windows, kill 5 bots. It was 90-90. Not bad, super easy. But even that, You're not guaranteed to get that one over all the time. The re-rolls obviously stack up. So maybe that one give like 25, maybe 30% more experience. And for example, there's one on Traxxas where you have to decon Deimos rods or just rods in general, as well as do something else, which I can't remember. But the rods part, I know that's only really available in Dire Martian Up. And it awards the same 90/90 as that Easy Mida one does. So that one, because you can't really do that on perimeter and you have to do it on the harder maps, should reward, like I said, like 75 to 100% more experience for completing it, kind of to incentivize you to do it instead of having to re-roll it multiple times, because I've re-rolled that one a few times and it keeps coming back up, right? So by giving more experience there, that'll be largely helpful. um, Outside of like the priority ones. With the priority contracts, I do feel like they should also, at least that first bunch. So after you unlock a faction, you have your first bunch, the level 1 to like 10 roughly quests. Um, I don't think that any of them should be in a single run or requires you to exfil. Um, and preferably they should all, like 80% of them, maybe the last one or two in like a clump, should all be on like perimeter, because that'll allow people to actually make tangible progress and feel like they're doing stuff again on that power floor. Um, and then along with that, I think some of the upgrades should be adjusted. In this case, I'm specifically talking about the blue shields for New Cal. I think that should be unlocked around level 16 to 18 instead of 20. And then on top of that, it should cost, instead of, I believe it's 7, maybe 8 biolent seeds, and then the 3 neural insulators, it should cost 3 and 1, 4 and 2 at most, right? Um, Blue equipment, I feel like, is kind of like that intermediary equipment where it's like you can compete, uh, against purple shields if you get good positioning and stuff. I've done it, but it makes you, if the even if a green gets the jump on you, or you're out in the great position, it gives you a chance to react and um, kind of fight back. I think they should be unlocked earlier to get you to that power spike a little earlier. And then on top of that, I do think that the capstones, I just started unlocking capstone 3 for a bunch of stuff, and I noticed that they give you purple materials, salvage materials for upgrades. I think capstone 1s and 2 should do that as well. Not purples though. Capstone 1 gives you greens, capstone 2 blues, capstone 3 and on gives you whatever they give you, because to my understanding, they give you stuff going forward. That way, the leveling process is sped up a bit. I played Destiny for over 1,000 hours. I actually put a surprising amount of time into Edge of Fate, and I think that Bungie is doing a similar thing in Marathon that they tried to do in Edge of Fate, which is they extended the leveling grind, the item level grind, um, with the idea that it's supposed to last the entire season, which which means that it was very tedious, very slow, and everybody kind of hated it. I didn't at I wouldn't have hated it. I didn't hate it. I disliked it. Um, but that's only because the most efficient way to do it was just to run Caldera. Go back into the mines and grind. That's the best way to get it up so that you can start getting better gear later. I understand the thought process behind making it a grind throughout the season. However, a lot of players don't have the time or patience for that, especially when the best ways to do that are by grinding a solo op activity that's super boring, right? So I think that's what they're trying to do in Marathon, is that they're trying to extend the grind for basically anybody but like streamers or turbo sweats or anything like that, of the factions, so it lasts the whole time. But because the seasonal wipes happen, I think that's a pretty terrible idea, because by the time you get there, like it's a month and a half in, and like I said, mathematically I'm roughly 70% done with hitting level 30 on everyone, right? Not including the capstones. That's at 120 hours. So, by speeding up the experience, that'll help a lot. I think you should be able to max or get close to max for all of them by like the midway or 60, 2/3 of the way through the season so that you can kind of enjoy, the end game of just like kind of going full kitted out with your boys and having fun, right? By trying to make this grind so grindy for everybody else, it's just kind of pulling back. People don't want to really deal with it, kind of like Edge of Fate, where they did not want to deal with that either. Um, so that's it for the factions. I do think that also, as far as the armory is concerned, I do think everything in the armory that you unlock that's green should be about 40 to 50% less expensive. To get a full green kit after a wipe, including like ammo, and I know the bartering exists, which is very helpful, but it's still like a 5, 6 plus K investment to get a full green kit back. Which makes you feel kind of shitty after you get wiped and you have nothing, right? Especially if it happens a few times. I know free kits exist, but I feel like those should be for like the very beginning of the game and also as like a last resort kind of thing. I love doing rook runs. I think they're super fun and chaotic, but I can understand people don't necessarily want to spend the time to grind that. But also on top of that, if I'm playing with my friends and I get down bad and I have nothing really to show, my vault's almost empty, I'm running low on credits, I can't rook run. I'm not gonna be like, all right, guys, bye. I'm gonna rook run. I'll see you in an hour. Maybe I'll be better, you know. So I do think that greens, except for green weapons that you unlock, because that could be taken advantage of. For example, in Arachne, you can unlock the green waster shotgun. That is going to be regular full price, which is I believe six K or 6,600. Because if that's half, that's people are going to abuse that. So any pre-made green weapons throughout the armory of all factions stays the same price. Weapon pricing can be adjusted based on, what's good and what's not to try to incentivize people to use other ones. But like weapon mods, cores, implants, heals, equipment, backpacks, shields, all that should be 40 to 50% less. Um, just so that if you do wipe, like it only costs maybe, 2 to 3 grand to make a usable kit to go back with, and that they should also not have a limit on how much you can buy per day. I don't know why there's a limit on the things that you can buy per day. I guess so you don't just constantly spam them, but like this Sunday I played 15 rounds with my friend. It's usually me. I have my one friend I play with, and then we fill the last slot. We played 15 rounds, went 8 and 7, and I bought up all blue backpacks that I could get for the day. Luckily, we had some good runs at the end and got some really good stuff. But I don't think that greens or blues should have a limit on how much you can buy per day. They should be unlimited, really. Greens, especially, they're the lowest tier of item. Excuse me. They're the lowest tier of item. I don't see why there should be a limit on those. Blues, I think, should be about 25 to 30% cheaper across the board, just like I stated for greens. And they also should be unlimited. Again, I don't see why they should be limited. If you unlock them, which is at current a pain in the ass to do, you should be able to take advantage of that. And they shouldn't be so wildly inexpensive that you're using all your credits and all your vault because you had a series of runs that went south. The purples should maybe be 10% less, and they should have a limit on them like they do right now. And then I don't know if this is how this works, but if it's not, then maybe when you hit the VIP ranks, you get an increased amount you can buy per day. So, for example, in New Cal, for the purple shields, once you unlock them, maybe it's like 5 a day you can get, because I know you need VIP rank 1 for that. So VIP rank 2, it goes up to 7, 3 goes up to 8, 4 goes up to 9, and 5 goes up to 10, something like that, to give you a little more progression. Again, I don't know if that's how that works. I haven't unlocked it yet, but that was my thoughts on that. And then golds, since everything else is cheaper and golds is like the pinnacle, gold should be slightly more expensive, maybe 10% more. And sure, they have a limit on them. But that allows you to, again, really realistically get that power floor raised so that things go south, again, on that Sunday that I was playing last Sunday, we had, I think, 3 or 4 matches in a row where we got wiped. And every single match, I had brought in my stuff from my vault or had to buy some stuff to bring in. And, my vault is full. It still is. And I have a good amount of credits because we usually do pretty well. But I can imagine if you're not in that situation, you just kind of feel like giving up, especially when you see just the tiny ticks of experience of factions going up. Um, so it'll make it slightly less disparaging for people who are either lower skilled or just getting into it. And then on top of that, allows that floor to raise tangibly so that you can, easily get back into it. I think greens should be like the standard minimum for equipment. It shouldn't be free kits. Um, the prevalence of free kits, majority, if not like the vast majority of solos that come to join me and my buddy when we play are free kitted. Um, and I get it. I understand it. I know they have the sponsored free kits, which are generally pretty all right, like the Sakaguchi one, for example. But I do think, just by lowering the price of everything else, that'll help everybody feel like they're accomplishing something, even, if they're not as quick as others. Um, so I think those changes would help a lot. And then a little more long term one is to add a map in between perimeter. Actually, before that, I think that I know when you first start, there's a beginner perimeter map, but it only lets you do that for like 3 runs, something like that. I think that should be available to you until your account level is like 7 to 10 to really give people a chance to like get in there, understand it, have a safe space to do it, and there should only be 2, maybe 3 teams in there. So that there is still the risk of PvP and you can still get the hang of that, but it's not as, sweaty off the rip. You don't have to do that. You can queue up to regular perimeter at any point in time, but it'll be more so like safer space for people to get into that doesn't affect like the more hardcore base. And then on top of that, as I was saying, there should be a map in between perimeter and Dire Marsh. Um, Perimeter is a very basic map. I like it, but the difference between going from perimeter to Dire Marsh is wild. It's like this is kind of child's play. You can usually get around an exfil without even seeing anyone, and then Dire Marsh is just straight up Vietnam, with 3 teams. 3 teams spawning at bio research, and hey, that's where all the quests are. You know what I mean? So, if there was another map that was slightly larger than perimeter but smaller than Dire Marsh, that also had 5 players, 5 teams on it, like perimeter does, I think that would help bridge the gap a little more because I do think that by making, only end game maps going forward doesn't really help the problem with the new people. And as much as I love cryo and outposts, pinwheel runs and stuff like that, um, it's hard for people to get into that if they don't have like a safe space to learn the basics first. There's not really much in the ways of tutorials in this game. Um, or at least good tutorials. They should add that. Also, a shooting range that would be huge, so you can test stuff out. Maybe you and your friends can go into it to test stuff out, on each other as test TTKs and headshot damage and stuff. Spawn in mobs, kind of like what they finally did in Destiny after 10 years. But like that, maybe a little toggle you can enable PvP in it, so you guys can just screw around and have fun and test stuff out without risk of losing anything. Um, but yeah, those are kind of like the main things that I think. I know adding a new map is a little more long term and a little more far fetched, but I feel like the other suggestions given would be fairly simple. I'm not a programmer, I know nothing about coding, but I feel like just changing the values would be fairly simple, in terms of making changes that would help, again, that floor so that we can get more, casual, lower skilled, or people who are interested in it and scared. They can get in, try it, and, hopefully fall in love with the game as I and many others have. And, get, our players in because yeah, I mean, every week the player base goes down on the Steam charts. I know that's the vast majority. of the players are on PC. So, I'd rather not see the game, you know, pull the Concord or get pulled or anything like that. So it would be nice, to try to bolster the numbers and make some changes that'll help, again, that floor without necessarily affecting like the sweats or the hardcore people. Like, sure, they'll get to the end game stuff quicker with the experience changes and with the value changes in the armory, but so will everybody else. And again, as long as people can resort to, like, okay, I'll build a green or I'll build a blue loadout, since you know I have some money but like not that much, instead of just being like, well, free kit time, boom, and then never making progress, because it's hard to make a free kit progress if everybody else has blues, purples, or even golds, right? So let me know what you think. This is my first video. Like I said, I basically just started my channel here mostly for streaming, so I'm working on getting a better camera and microphone and stuff like that. If you want to see me stream with my friends, I stream every Saturday and Sunday night. I work at night, so I'm usually up all night on Saturday and Sunday. So I start streaming around 9 or 10 until like 2 to 5 o'clock in the morning, and then maybe errantly throughout the week, depending on my family schedule and my work schedule. So, thank you for watching. This is Debo from Dilbo Gaming, and leave your comments below on what you think, and feel free to like and subscribe, and come watch me play some Marathon.